The train station smelled like rain-soaked concrete and unsaid things. A cold gust slipped through the broken panels of glass above, tossing strands of her hair across her face. She didn't fix them. She just stood there, motionless, at the edge of the platform. Not close enough to fall, not far enough to leave. The announcement board blinked delayed. Her fingers clutched a small, worn suitcase, blue once, now faded gray like forgotten promises. A single red ribbon was tied around the handle. Fraying. Unraveling. She didn't blink as the wedding party passed by behind her. Laughter. Heels clicking. The clatter of champagne bottles in paper bags. A woman's voice rising with excitement. I still can't believe she's marrying him. She's lucky, you know. Another voice. He said his family's been so generous. Someone paid for everything. Laughter again, this time sharp. Her eyes didn't follow them, but her breath caught for just one moment. Her name wasn't on the guest list. She'd checked. Twice. She shifted the suitcase slightly, thumb brushing over the metal zipper. It was trembling. Or maybe she was. Her other hand gripped something tighter in her coat pocket, a cracked watch, the gold worn off around the edges. It hadn't ticked in 2 years. But she kept it. Carried it. Like it owed her a reason. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number, we're just boarding now. Wish you were here. She looks beautiful. No name. No apology. Just wish and beautiful. Like that would soften the bruise. She turned the screen off. The station lights flickered overhead. She remembered the day she wired the money. The bank manager asked if she wanted a receipt. She said no. Said it wasn't a gift. Said it was necessary. Back then, everything still felt reversible. Now the train kept delaying. A baby cried somewhere. A child dropped a juice bottle. A man cursed under his breath, pacing. Everything moved except her. She stared at the track. Not waiting. Not running. Just there. And in her mind, she saw the ballroom, white lights, soft petals underfoot, her sister in ivory and silver. And him. Smiling, like betrayal wore a tuxedo. Her hand found the ribbon again. She began to untie it slowly, finger by finger, like a goodbye. But before she finished, a voice on the intercom crackled, "Final boarding for Lahore, platform 2." She didn't move. Not yet. Her eyes stayed locked on the space between the tracks, somewhere distant, heavy, unresolved. The ribbon slipped from her fingers. And the suitcase remained at her side. She sat down on the edge of the metal bench, the suitcase resting between her feet like a loyal dog that never asked questions. The red ribbon had fallen to the ground, curling slightly in the wind like it, too, was unsure whether to stay or be carried away. She didn't pick it up. A family across from her erupted in laughter as an old man, maybe the grandfather, pulled sweets from his pocket and passed them to wide-eyed children. A woman held a baby close to her chest, whispering lullabies as if the station noise didn't exist. And then there was her. Alone. Quiet. Watching joy from a window she was never meant to walk through. She looked down at the suitcase again. It wasn't hers. Not really. It had once belonged to her mother. Years ago, when her mother left for a hospital in another city, she carried this very bag, ribbon and all. "It brings me luck," she'd said, knotting the red thread after a small tear appeared on the handle. Her mother never came back. She never removed the ribbon. And she never got her answers. "Some things you carry forever," her father once told her. He'd said it on the night they mortgaged the house to cover her sister's tuition. He smiled when he said it. But his hands were shaking. Just like hers now. She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to will herself back into her body. As if by breathing slower, she could rewrite the invitation list. As if not crying might rewrite the part where she became a stranger in their story. Across the bench, a man stood quietly. He wasn't looking at her, but he wasn't not looking either. He was dressed plainly, holding a thermos. His eyes flicked toward her once, then away. No curiosity. No pity. Just presence. She wondered what he saw. A tired girl with shadows under her eyes? A woman clinging to a ribbon and a silence so loud it buzzed in her teeth. She looked away. A drop of water hit her hand. Then another. Rain again. She moved the suitcase under the bench. But something in her stopped, fingers hovering just over the zipper. Inside were the documents. The transfer slips. The receipts. Quiet proof of invisible hands. She'd kept them not to show. Just to remember. Another announcement echoed overhead. Train 45 to Lahore now arriving. Please stand behind the yellow line. She stood slowly, knees stiff. Picked up the suitcase again. She walked, past the red ribbon still fluttering on the floor, past the man who didn't speak. His eyes followed her once. Just once. At the yellow line, she paused. She could step forward. Or turn around. She hesitated, 1 foot over the line. And she smiled. But it wasn't joy. It was something else. And it didn't reach her eyes. She didn't board the train. Not yet. The whistle screamed through the rain-drenched station, steel grinding against steel like a warning. Passengers shuffled past her, eyes glazed with routine urgency, umbrellas brushing shoulders, puddles echoing footsteps. She stepped back from the yellow line, heart thudding. The suitcase felt heavier. Or maybe she did. Behind her, the man was still standing. Same posture. Same silence. This time, she looked at him. Really looked. His coat was too thin for the weather, and his shoes, brown leather, cracking at the seams, were soaked through. His hair, black and stubbornly unkempt, clung to his forehead. A frayed thread dangled from his cuff, the way the red ribbon had once dangled from her suitcase. Then she noticed, he was holding something. A wallet. Open. But not for money. A small, faded photograph was tucked inside. A little girl, missing teeth, wearing a school uniform 2 sizes too big, clutched a man's hand. Him, probably. Before time made his shoulders slope. Before silence became his shield. The girl on the platform blinked. An invisible mirror cracked open between them. She thought of her own childhood photos, buried in a drawer no one opened. Her father's hand always just out of frame, her mother's smile never quite full. She tightened her grip on the suitcase. Her knuckles pale. The storm outside cracked. Lightning illuminated the station in a cold, stuttering flash. Thunder followed, deep and hollow, like a heart remembering how to hurt. The man sat down on the same bench she had left moments ago. Their eyes met again. Still, no words. But in his stillness, she saw herself. Not the version her sister posted about. Not the girl with straightened hair and polite smiles at family dinners. But the one who wired money at 3 a.m. from a borrowed account. The one who sold her only gold chain to cover the deposit. The one who pressed her name into the corner of a wedding she wasn't invited to, because love, apparently, didn't come with thank you notes. She looked at the train again. Its doors were still open. But her feet didn't move. Something in her wavered. Like a flame unsure whether to flicker out or rise higher. She turned to him and opened her mouth, but he looked away, just slightly, as if he'd already heard what she hadn't said. She hesitated. A question perched on her lips, but the storm swallowed it. And in the silence between lightning and reply, the train began to move. She didn't chase it. She stood there. Soaking. Trembling. Unspoken. And the man beside her said nothing. But he didn't leave. She stood at the edge of the platform long after the train had vanished into the rain. The suitcase was still in her grip, but now it dragged behind her as she walked slowly down the corridor, boots heavy with water, legs aching from the weight of what she wouldn't say. People passed her. Some glanced. Some didn't. A woman with a toddler stared too long. The child whispered, "Why is she crying?" "I don't know," the mother replied, tugging him away. "They always look away." She stopped near a pillar. Her back hit the cold concrete, and for a second, she let her eyes close. Just a second. But it broke her. Her breath stuttered. Not loud, not obvious, just fractured, like glass being stepped on slowly. Her shoulders curled in on themselves. The sob didn't come out whole. It came in parts. Like it didn't want to embarrass her too much. You weren't even invited. The thought pressed against her ribs like a scream with nowhere to go. All that money. All those nights she'd skipped dinner so her sister could have the perfect venue. The embroidered veil. The imported lilies. And they hadn't even texted. She slid down until she was sitting on the floor, knees up, suitcase beside her like it was grieving too. Then, a shadow. He approached quietly, kneeling beside the suitcase. No words. Just stillness. And in his hand, the red ribbon. Soaked. Mud-streaked. Torn at the edge. He had picked it up. Held it like it meant something. She blinked, lips parted. But her voice was somewhere lost between fury and fatigue. He didn't look directly at her. He just tied it gently back onto the suitcase handle, slow and careful, as if it was a wound. "Some people carry more than just bags," he said, voice low like dusk, "they carry silence." She stared at the ribbon. It looked different now. Not a charm. Not a memory. A mark. A scar. A tether. She wanted to ask him why he cared. Or who that girl in the photo was. Or why he hadn't left yet. But she didn't. He stood again. Slipped his hands into his soaked pockets. His face unreadable, but not unkind. A group of college boys passed behind them, laughing too loud. One muttered, "Drama queen," just audible enough. She flinched. He heard it. Didn't react. But something behind his eyes dimmed. They were both used to it, being seen, but not seen. She stood slowly. He didn't step closer. She didn't walk away. They just stood. With the suitcase between them. And the ribbon, still dripping. She hadn't planned to speak. But the silence between them was becoming too loud, too full of things left unsaid. "Why did you?" Her voice cracked. She cleared it. "Why did you keep the ribbon?" He didn't look at her. Just stared out toward the empty track, where the train had long vanished. His jaw shifted slightly, like he was biting back something old. "It used to belong to my daughter," he said finally. "Before she died." The words fell heavy, no drama, no decoration. Just loss, pure and plain. Her mouth parted, but nothing came. Her hand gripped the suitcase again. The ribbon had been hers. Now it wasn't just hers anymore. She tied red into everything, he added quietly, almost to himself. Told me it meant staying. The knot on the handle, still damp, seemed to pulse with something heavier now, something neither of them could quite carry, but couldn't leave behind either. She looked at him like really looked for the first time. The cracks in his voice, the way he stood as though the ground itself had disappointed him too many times. And suddenly, she remembered something. Her phone buzzed. An automated email, unread until now. Thank you for applying to Rafiq and Daughters Foundation. Your interview has been scheduled. She stared at the sender. Rafiq. She looked up. Her mouth dried. Some people carry more than just bags. The man in front of her. The one who'd picked up her ribbon. The one who'd said nothing and yet made her feel seen. He wasn't just someone drifting through the storm. He was him. Amir Rafiq. Founder. Silent benefactor. The name she'd seen on every charity grant her sister had received. The man who signed the checks. Who decided who was allowed in and who stayed forgotten. Her knees felt weak. Not from fear, but from the weight of coincidence bending towards something else. Fate? Irony? Punishment? She laughed, just once. Short. Almost mad. I applied there, she whispered. To your company. He turned to her finally, eyes catching hers with a softness that somehow made it worse. I know. The air folded in on itself. He knew. Had he recognized her all along? Was this sympathy? Or strategy? Some things you carry forever, her father had said once. She felt it now, that line, looping back like it was stitched into her skin. There was no going back. Not after this. She turned from the platform. Not to run. Not to hide. But to step into something she hadn't expected. The interview room was just 2 floors up. And she walked straight toward it, suitcase in hand, ribbon trailing behind like a thread pulling her forward. The office smelled nothing like the station. It was polished wood and quiet clocks. Calm. Controlled. The kind of place where people wore names like armor and grief didn't echo in corners. She sat across from him, now not just the man on the platform, but Mr. Rafiq. Behind him hung a photograph. A little girl in a school uniform, grinning with untamed hair and a red ribbon in her braid. She didn't ask. She didn't need to. I've reviewed your file, he said softly. And I know more than what's on paper. She kept her chin high, but her palms were sweating. I know you paid for your sister's wedding. A pause. And weren't invited. The words didn't sting like they used to. Now they just settled. I never told anyone, she said. Not for thanks. It just felt like I had to. I know. His voice was quieter now. She was your family. Her gaze dropped to the suitcase by her side, damp still, the ribbon curled like a sleeping question mark. This bag had followed her through silence, rejection, grief. It wasn't just fabric and zippers. It was the version of her no one clapped for. He leaned forward, hands folded. My daughter, she was like you. Quietly generous. Always giving. Even when it hurt. A beat. I lost her. But sometimes, he exhaled, I see pieces of her walking around in strangers. Her throat tightened. So is that what this is? She asked. You see her in me? He didn't smile. I see you. She blinked. I won't offer you the job out of pity, he said. But I will offer you a choice. He opened a drawer, pulled something out, a clean, dry envelope with her name written in bold. Your sister's wedding was funded by an anonymous donor. You were the bridge. They never saw it, but I did. This, he placed the envelope on the table, is a grant. For you. For what you could build, if you ever stopped building for everyone else. She stared at it. A chance. Not for revenge. But for rebirth. Her fingers moved toward it, then stopped. Slowly, She pulled the ribbon from the suitcase, gently unknotted it, and placed it on the envelope instead. "No," she said. "Give it to someone else. Someone whose silence is still breaking." He looked at the ribbon. Then her. And nodded. The next morning, the train station buzzed with noise again. Same flickering lights. Same broken glass above. But she wasn't standing alone this time. She wasn't watching the tracks like a ghost. She was walking away from them. Sunlight hit her hair. Her suitcase, lighter now, rolled behind her. The ribbon? Gone. Not buried. Not burned. Passed on. Not every stranger you help is meant to stay, but some leave you changed forever. Weeks passed. No announcements. No late trains. No platform whistles echoing in her chest. Now, the girl, woman, maybe, walked a quiet street with jasmine blooming on the walls. Her steps were unhurried. She wore no red. No ribbon. Just her own skin, lightened from the shedding. The world hadn't changed. But something in her had. She passed a street vendor selling bracelets. A child cried over dropped candy. A man watered plants on a narrow balcony. Life continued, unaware of what she had walked through to arrive here. And that was the beauty of it. The suitcase sat in her room now, empty and zipped, slid beneath the bed like an old chapter. On the desk beside it, in a shallow wooden drawer, rested the red ribbon, pressed between 2 pages of a forgotten book. The light from the window touched it gently each morning, as if blessing it for what it once carried. She never threw it away. Some things aren't meant to be destroyed. Just, laid to rest. Her phone buzzed once that day. A wedding photo, forwarded by someone who didn't know better. Her sister smiled in it, unaware. The caption read, "A perfect day, made possible by love." She looked at it for a moment, unreadable. Then deleted it. No need to respond. Some people build bridges they're never meant to cross again. And sometimes, that's okay. She poured tea slowly, savoring the sound. The steam curled upward like a memory choosing to stay kind. On the counter sat an unopened envelope with a grant she hadn't cashed in yet. She would. When it felt right. For now, she was relearning how to exist without proving anything. She sat by the window. The sun fell across her face in quiet pieces. And a voice, his voice, returned like a breath from another life. Sometimes love is not romance, it's recognition. She closed her eyes. Maybe he hadn't stayed. Maybe they'd only crossed paths to see parts of themselves they'd buried. But it was enough. A breeze touched her hair. She didn't flinch. Just lifted her face slightly, as if greeting something invisible. She didn't forgive everything. She didn't forget. But she began again. Not as the girl with the ribbon. Not as the sister, the donor, the invisible name behind celebration. Just, herself. And maybe that was the quietest kind of revenge. Or the truest kind of freedom. Because sometimes, what we give away defines us more than what we keep.